Welcome to today's explainer. So, we're going to unpack a really fascinating and honestly kind of brutal reality about our modern financial system. We usually think of a bank as this static institution, right? Just a building with vaults, some tellers, and a set of rules that apply equally to everybody who walks through those doors. But based on a deep dive into how modern banking actually works, that is a total illusion. The bank absolutely doesn't treat everyone the same. In fact, the whole institution fundamentally changes its personality, its rules, and even its basic level of human decency based on literally one metric: the account balance next to your name. So today we're going to climb what we call the ladder of leverage. We'll start from the absolute bottom and go all the way up to that mind-blowing $25 million mark. Okay, let's start here. -$4, right away. That little minus sign in front changes everything. You stare at it, kind of hoping it might just disappear if you blink. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. You overdrafted by $4. Just $4. Now, maybe it was a coffee you totally forgot was scheduled to charge. But here's the thing, the system doesn't care that it was just a coffee, and it definitely doesn't care that it was only $4. The system, it only cares about the math. And the math says you dropped below zero. So boom, instantly, automatically, a $35 fee drops right onto your account. So the bank just took $35 for a $4 mistake. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Let's say a $7 subscription you forgot to cancel processes next. The system sees you're already negative and bam, hits you with another $35 fee. You try to call them, but you're just stuck listening to hold music loop 3 times. Finally, a voice reads from a script basically telling you fees absolutely cannot be reversed. You ask for a manager, they say, oh, someone will call back within 48 hours. Nobody calls. And by the next morning, things get worse. Your rent payment fails, which triggers a $75 late fee from your landlord. Your phone bill bounces, adding another $25. Suddenly, you're caught in this rapid, totally indifferent, automated punishment cycle. The math you couldn't fix at $4 is suddenly $200 deep, and it's growing in directions you never even authorized. It really proves this brutal truth. The penalty for being broke is that you just become more broke. At this level, you walk into a branch and you can literally see the teller's face change. It's not anger, it's not even pity, it's just something colder. You watch yourself stop being a real person on their screen and start being a flag, a category, a risk score. You realize that somewhere between that $4 coffee mistake and all those unreturned phone calls, you stopped feeling like a customer. You started feeling like a problem. Okay, let's move to the next level. You manage to pull the account back. Maybe it takes 20 hours of overtime just to make $200. Stay positive for one single week. You did it. But, nobody's clapping. The bank notices, sure, but definitely not in a good way. You're exhausted, but hey, you're back in the black. So surely the bleeding stops now, right? Yeah, wrong. Even at $200, the system is still draining you. It's just doing it a bit more quietly. A $12 maintenance fee basically vanishes automatically. Why? Because you don't meet their $1,500 minimum balance. Think about that. You are literally paying a bank to hold money you barely have. And this directly contributes to the billions in fees that banks harvest from low balance accounts every single year. You ask for a credit card, and they offer you a secured one. Basically, you have to give them $300 of your own money as collateral just so they can lend it right back to you at an insane 24% interest rate. And when you walk into the branch, that warm smile the teller had for the previous customer vanishes, replaced by this trained, professional blankness. You aren't insulted, you aren't refused, but you are moved through the process like luggage on a conveyor belt. You exist on their books, but you sure don't exist in their attention. But watch what happens as we move up the ladder. The pacing smooths out, kind of exactly like the banking experience does. Hit $2,000, and if you've got a steady direct deposit, those annoying maintenance fees, they automatically vanish. Suddenly, pre-approved credit cards start arriving in the mail printed in shiny metallic ink. The bank approves an 11% car loan for you in 48 hours. Why the change? Because you aren't invisible anymore. You aren't respected yet, but you are profitable. Now push that balance up to $15,000, and the bank assigns you a relationship banker. Those awful hold times completely disappear. That 11% car loan drops down to 6.8% because, you've stopped being a risk. The bank is actually courting you now. And by the time you hit $80,000, you're labeled a preferred client. Your banker remembers your birthday. If a competitor offers you a better rate, your bank immediately matches it. No questions asked. At $80,000, you are finally viewed as an asset worth defending. Which brings us to a really profound realization. Back when you were drowning at -$4, the bank wasn't actively trying to be mean to you. They didn't have a personal vendetta. The system was just completely indifferent to your struggle. But here's the catch. Indifference at an institutional scale looks and feels exactly like cruelty. Those fees that totally destroyed you at the bottom, they are instantly waived with a single quick email at the middle tiers. The system didn't change its morality. Your tier changed. All right, now take a deep breath, because we're stepping into an entirely different world. The pace really slows down here. Everything is calm. Everything is incredibly deliberate. We have officially crossed into the stratosphere of $5 million.
Welcome to private banking. This isn't just standard wealth management. See, wealth management is a service, but private banking, that's a relationship. And at this level, relationships do not follow rules. They negotiate them. You get assigned a private banker who manages fewer than 20 accounts total. They literally know your kids' names. Paperwork that takes a regular customer 2 full weeks to process gets handled in, 48 hours. And not because of some standard procedure, but simply because someone whispered whose account it was. You're sitting in these plush conference rooms with no logos on the doors, casually discussing private investments that will never, ever appear on a public prospectus. This right here is the core of the whole dynamic. Think back to level 1. When you desperately needed help over a tiny $35 fee, the bank locked you into a 40-minute hold loop, read from a rigid script, and completely ignored your pleas. But at level 7, with $5 million, a frozen wire transfer is fixed on the second ring of a direct phone call. No hold music, no transfers, no scripts. The friction has been entirely, meticulously engineered out of your existence. And yet, believe it or not, there is one step higher. $25 million. At this pinnacle, you don't even really have a banker anymore. What you have is a relationship that's literally a named line item in a senior executive's performance review. Losing your account wouldn't just be a tiny blip on a spreadsheet somewhere. It would actively damage careers inside the institution. The bank no longer hands you a glossy brochure of their services. Instead, you have 3 people inside the bank whose jobs exist partially because of your account. Deals are totally bespoke. I mean, entire sentences are drafted by lawyers for you and you alone. You don't apply for investments. Investments actually apply for your participation before they even go public. The chief investment officer might call you up just to ask for your opinion on emerging markets. Yes, you heard that right. The bank is now asking you for financial advice. The head of private banking might literally fly out to your city just to ask what kinds of products clients like you might expect next year. You are absolutely not just a customer anymore. You're a partner, actively shaping the very institution that serves you. When you put these two realities side by side, the disparity is honestly just staggering. Down at level 2, having just $200, the bank literally charges you $15 a month just to let your money sit there. They drain the exact funds you desperately need to survive. But up at level 8, the bank employs entire teams of people to structure custom, highly lucrative deals specifically to ensure your $25 million never leaves their vault. It is an extreme, built-in systemic disparity. It really all boils down to this. The bank doesn't follow rules at $5 million, the bank bends them for you. That rigid, unbreakable architecture that punishes people at the bottom is entirely malleable for the ultra-wealthy. If a standard rule gets in the way of a $25 million account, well, the rule just gets discarded. The entire institution shapes itself around you. But right now, at this exact second, somewhere else in the city, someone is staring at a screen, at a little minus sign, -$4. They overdrafted on a coffee they just forgot about. Within the hour, that $35 fee is going to hit. They're feeling that exhausted, heavy feeling in their chest. They're picking up the phone. The hold music is starting to loop, and that scripted voice is going to tell them that absolutely nothing can be done. Which leaves us with this final lingering question. You know, you are the exact same human being, whether you have -$4 or $25 million. The bank, the institution that will one day fly a top executive out to consult you, is the exact same institution currently charging someone else $35 for the crime of not having enough money. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly, flawlessly, the way it was built to. So does the bank ever actually change, or just the number next to your name? Think about that next time you log in to check your balance. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.